Okay, Ricard, go.
Welcome to this parallel session that we are going to discuss a little bit about the intellectual property questions, opportunities, challenges to collaborate with digital cultural heritage objects, both on a commercial basis and a non-commercial basis. I am Ricard Buchs. I'm at the Director General of Research and Innovation of the European Commission, and I will be the moderator of this short session. And with me, I have two very interesting speakers. First of all, Armin Thalke from the German Digital Library, who is a lawyer and librarian and works as a legal advisor of the German Digital Library. And he's been working in the field of copyright and licensing in the, for example, the Berlin State Library, the Legal Commission of the German Library Association, an IFLA Committee on Copyright and Related Rights. And the second speaker should have been Ariadna Matas from the Europeana Foundation, but instead we have with us Lorena, who is a colleague of Ariadna, and will try to pick up the mantle of speaking about deploying the common European data space for cultural heritage in terms of copyright policies, frameworks, and standards. Right. And behind the scenes with us, not the least, we have my colleague Matej Sarpniak, who's making all this possible. So, first of all, I would like to insist that it's very important that you connect to Slido, because this is the backbone of this session. This is the way you can interact with us. So please go to slido.com and enter the code Cloud for All. And once there, you have to select the room intellectual property rights. And now I hope you have all managed to connect here. So let's give it a try. We launched the first poll, which Matej just launched, and we are already seeing some answers to this. So let's see if it evolves. Yes, it's changing a little bit. We have a majority of researchers with us, probably, it seems, at least people that work at a university or research center. But also cultural heritage administrations, public administrations, yes. And the last, which you only see part of, is network organizations. It's nice to see the, I think, the dynamic movement here. So yeah, we're starting to stabilize, I believe. Around half of the participants are from research organizations, so very welcome. We will have many insightful, perhaps comments from the research point of view. And we also have a sizable amount of public administrations people with us, and also people from cultural heritage institutions, very good, and some private companies also, and others which we don't know exactly what it is. Okay, thank you very much. I think we can move on. And now that we know our others' professional background, more or less, during the rest of the session, you will be able to enter short comments or statements or questions on, you could say, an open question, which Matej will also launch on Slido. And you can start commenting on this as you want during the polls or afterwards. And this will be our way to interact at this meeting. The idea is that we first listen to short presentations from our speakers, And then we will discuss on the basis of these statements and on the basis of the questions and statements appearing on Slido. So please don't be shy to share your thoughts on Slido. So now, please, Armin, the floor is yours for your short presentation. I don't hear you.
Hello, everybody. Well,
Thank you.
my presentation that I'm going to show in a few seconds is not about super intelligent innovations, but about a reasonable and reliable labeling of cultural heritage objects with rights information about in national and European contexts. And now I hope that my presentation works. Do you see everything in presentation mode? Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. Thank you. Well, you see in the middle some main information about the German digital library called DDB, Deutsche Digitale Bibliothek. We have 45 million objects, including metadata objects, and 60 million of those objects have digital representations. So that's just for the background. We have got more or less 700 data providers, which are cultural heritage institutions who deliver digital object and metadata. The images are delivered via secure download link, and metadata are mainly delivered via data interface, and the rights information are part of those metadata. And then the German Digital Library delivers the main part of their objects to Europeana, and this happens via data interface. And like I said, in the metadata included, we have some rights statements and Creative Commons licenses, and then also in the data we transfer then to Europeana, we have more or less the same rights statements and CC licenses. So, well, we try to to match the legal information on the first stage from the data provider to the second stage where we deliver the data to Europeana. And this is just a short presentation how these rights statements look. At the moment, on the left side, you will see our current or still current rights statements. At the moment, we are in the course of changing them. The reasons I will tell you afterwards. So on the left side, you will see what we have at the moment. So the first one is public domain mark, and it will stay in the future. The public domain mark, that is I think the most important rights label we have, because more than 95% of our digital objects are in the public domain. Then we have the label free access, no reuse, and restricted access, no reuse, which will merge in the future into the label in copyright. It's as easy. Then we have the label orphan work, which will transfer into orphan work. Then we have the label unknown, which will be transferred into copyright not evaluated. Then we have the label out of copyright, non-commercial reuse, which might be a little bit controversial. And we still have this label in the future. And then, as you might know, the labels on the right side are the ones used by Europeana too. So that is one of our aims, to match our labels one-to-one on the Europeana labels, and in Europeana I use 2 more labels, which we also will include in the future into the label selection of the German Digital Library. This means that we will include this label in copyright educational use permitted, which I personally don't like too much because in principle this is not only right statements, but I think it's license, and it's not really clear in to what extent and what kind of exploitations are allowed for educational use. So what I always recommend to use better Creative Commons license instead of this rights label. And then in the rights statements used by Europeana, we also have the label no copyright, other non-legal restriction, which I also don't like too much because you can say if something is already on the web, why should we restrict the use because of other known legal restrictions? For me, this is not quite clear. But after all, we still certainly deliver and keep all CC licenses, which you can use for the cultural heritage objects, included the CC0 license, so the public domain dedication. So you've heard a little bit critical words from me towards the right statements from Europeana, but why do we still change to use them now? Well, the main reason is that we want to totally adapt to Europeana, which helps for the international harmonization, which I think is extremely important, looking at the rights statements and rights labeling. And the other reason is that it's good to have no legal blurriness in the transformation of rights statements from different rights statements to the ones of Europeana, because there might still be something unclear if we do a kind of synthesis or a matching. So now we have 100% match with Europeana. And another reason for changing the right statements is that the old label license basket, that was our labeling for all the right statements and licenses we had in our in our selections of statements, was simply wrong, because most of them are not licensed, and licenses like even CC licenses is not the main labeling and cultural heritage object labeling, because for CC licensing the institution would need rights in it, and as many of us know, they don't get rights by digitization of flat books, for example, or via digitization even of paintings most of the times. So they don't have rights to license even with CC licensing. So the main part would be public domain mark and the other rights statements. So we changed the name and the order a little bit of those rights statements. And this is one of our data sets, and down there you can see where you can find the label with the legal information, and then you can filter our platform by legal status too. So this is all objects with the keyword Berlin, just for an overview of how you can sort and find works with certain rights label. And then you can also filter them by usability of the objects. And yeah, basis of this filter are certainly the rights statements and licenses given by the cultural heritage institutions. And this is the last slide. Just one word to the change process, which is not work, super work like rebuilding Notre Dame or something, but we need some kind of change process because we need some permission of the cultural heritage institutions to change their statements into the new statements. So this will take place in this year. And new data providers already only can choose the new rights statements already now. And then from 2024 on, the change over of labels will finally take place. Yeah, that was my short presentation, and I hope you
Thank you very much, Armin, for these
enjoyed it.
comments on the challenges and how you approach the issue rights statements. And now let's move directly over to Lorena, please.
Thank you, Richard. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you also, Armin, for this. I think it was a good introduction to what I'm going to share with you, in particular the Europeana frameworks and their rights statement. So that was a very good link. And thank you, Richard, and the European Commission for inviting Europeana to share our experience in this parallel session. So as you probably already know, the management of intellectual property rights plays a crucial role in cultural heritage institutions, because if it's done correctly, it can unlock the possibility to disseminate collections and facilitate their reuse, and as a result, have a positive impact on the organization. However, if it's mismanaged, copyright can represent a real barrier, both for the institution's own operation and also for the audiences. For example, a digitization project of thousands of newspaper pages may not see the light if copyright has not been cleared. So at the European initiative, dissemination and reuse of cultural heritage, it's at the very core of our mission, and it's crucial. So the limitations placed by copyright impact directly our work. We cannot encourage cultural heritage institutions to share their heritage and act as if no obstacles existed. The success of our objectives depend on the success of cultural heritage institutions in clearing copyrights. This is why we have been working collaboratively to address this challenge for over 10 years. So what have we done? We have co-developed frameworks and standards already mentioned by Armin, such as our licensing framework and the rights statements. So I'll be happy to leave the links on the chat so that you can access. And also, we partner up with the Digital Public Library of America, and we created a rights statement currently run by a consortium of relevant organizations. So this standard is there for anyone to enjoy and reflects the needs of the global cultural heritage sector. We have also been working to establish a network of professionals with specialized working groups advocating on behalf of cultural heritage sector in copyright reforms, and also providing capacity building in this important issue. So if I can dive deeper into one example, communities of practice are an essential pillar to support the correct management of copyright. For example, at the Europeana Network Association, we have collaboratively worked to create copyright management guidelines that recommend how to obtain permission, what information to record, whom to involve, when, how to train colleagues, etc. So this is with a view to streamline processes within a cultural heritage institution that lead to good management of copyright. Developing best practice in this area wouldn't be possible without first having an exchange of experience across professionals and figuring out together what the best approach can be. So this is why the community of practice is so important. Through this community, we also often discuss what role copyright should and should not have in relation to the reuse of digital cultural heritage. We hear numerous examples of institutions that embrace an open access policy, and that are, as a result, they have a bigger impact. So they have a better impact than they did when they were placing limitations or conditions on reuse. Just a few examples. We heard how an open access policy helped the Slovak National Gallery reach new audiences, and also how open access policy at the Museum of Brittany helped generate new knowledge thanks to rising new online visitors. So by sharing this experience, other institutions can learn that when copyright stands in between an institution and its audience, some income might be generated, but the overall impact and opportunities that will open up for the institution will be lower. Of course, a European is always happy to share our experience on this topic, to connect with our institutions, and to further collaborate in designing standards, best practices, or training. So we will be very happy to stay in touch and to support you and the community of practice of the Future Cloud with this challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lorena. And now I have to tell you all listening that unfortunately we have to close the session very soon in 2 minutes. But let's have a look at the Slido reactions. And here we have a lot that we could discuss. I can let me also before we have to close forcefully assure you that we will not lose the comments that you have entered on Slido. We still we will keep them with us, and we will take them into account in the future development. But let's Lorena or Armin, is there something here that you would like to comment on? There's one specific question to Armin, actually.
Yeah, no, public domain mark has not the same meaning as open access for me, because public domain is a different thing from open access. I would say you can also public domain mark is labeling works that are in the public domain, so there are no rights in it anymore. And open access can also be works that are still in copyright and have certain licensing or other rights statements. So there are different kinds of open access, but I think in a wider sense, open access for me means to put something on the web and people have free access, while public domain means you can do whatever you want with it.
There are some. Yes, Lorena.
Yes, if I can, just reading one of the comments. Impressive projects from a technical standpoint, but there are still several. The comment now is gone, but anyway, the general message was that there are still a lot of challenges in legislation, and there we go. For the reusability of digital cultural assets. And I just want to say that at Europeana, we're not only working at a technical standpoint, but this is why we are developing training. We are also engaging in advocacy efforts with member states and also at EU level to make sure this divergence between legislations are cleared, and that reuse of cultural heritage is facilitated for the public interest.
Maybe I can fill in to this comment regarding the cultural European culture collaborative cloud for cultural heritage. That of course all these complicated questions regarding copyright and IPR will not be solved by technology. What we technological wise aim for is to make solutions possible. To record ownership, interactions, etc., in order to be able to define the solutions that you want to apply. But the solutions have to be decided by humans, by the governance of these infrastructures. So it's a human thing, I think. It seems. Do we still have a little bit of time, Matej, or do we have to close right now?
We need to close, unfortunately.
Yeah, we need to close. Well, so thank you very much for to our two speakers and to our audience who has been quite active, and we have not done them justice, unfortunately, due to the short time. But as I said, we will not lose these comments, and there will be many more opportunities in the future to interact, to discuss, and to contribute to the future collaborative cloud for cultural heritage and to its user community. So with this, I think maybe we need to close the session. Thank you very much, and see you again in a few minutes at the plenary. And let me see, the plenary should start at 12:15. So there are still a few minutes to grab a coffee or take a technical break if that is necessary. Thank you very much.